Hi, I am Yvo Mentens. I am a practitioner and trainer of the Feldenkrais Method, and in this documentary I will introduce you to 12 concrete applications of the method. The Feldenkrais Method is a unique approach to enhancing abilities through sensorial and motor exploration. Whether through hands-on work or voice-guided lessons, I have identified over 130 different strategies we use to improve movement, refine our senses, and develop our learning skills. These strategies include moving with attention, sensing subtle differences, becoming aware of habitual movement patterns, exploring variations, using motor imagery, and many more. Practitioners around the world are adapting these strategies to fit the needs of their fields, from rehabilitation and the performing arts to athletics and education. To understand this remarkable diversity, we embarked on an international tour and spoke with more than 40 experts, coaches, performers, therapists and educators who've all integrated these neurosomatic strategies into their professional lives. From concert halls to clinics, Olympic swimming pools to prison classrooms, we witnessed the same core strategies appearing in very different contexts. This documentary will take you on a journey to discover the wide-ranging applications of the Feldenkrais Method and hopefully invites you to discover what it could mean for you. So let's begin with one of the most immediate applications of this work: rehabilitation and working with neurodegenerative conditions. Many people discover the Feldenkrais method following an injury or a neurological event. In this first segment, you'll meet 3 practitioners engaged with diverse populations. They work with people recovering from spinal cord injuries, emerging from coma in hospital settings, or living with challenges like Parkinson's disease.
Der Werner sitzt zum ersten Mal ganz allein. Der Werner sitzt zum ersten Mal ganz allein. Ohne Stütze, ohne alles, einfach so, frei auf der Couch, wackelt und
In the beginning it was so exciting and thrilling that I bought a video camera in order to document these sessions.
The touch we learned is so clear that the person can discover this below his conscious awareness, and then it brings out a new possibility to create movement by will. I cannot say it cures in every person with SCI, but with these clients I could do it.
I started a diary about his inner process.
Or his sensing his legs begins in this lesson. And he began to create a new self-image. He could use it. At the end of the lesson, he'd take on his braces and make a few steps in the room. And he feels so secure, he take away his braces. He couldn't feel his feet on the floor, but he could go. That was 3 years, he couldn't walk. And now he walked alone without braces.
Cette méthode me permettait de faire face aux prises en charge qui m'auraient inquiétée avant. On m'a demandé de m'occuper d'un jeune homme qui a été dans le coma. Donc j'ai fait un réveil de coma. Je me suis dit que je ne savais pas, mais que j'allais chercher. J'ai repris avec lui tous les processus du développement. Il a fallu d'abord l'aider à porter sa main à sa bouche, parce qu'il était alimenté par sonde. Il fallait tourner la tête, mais c'était vraiment une grande joie quand il est revenu nous voir dans notre salle de rééducation 3 mois après, les mains dans les poches, il avait complètement récupéré. Voilà.
Densuel è un progetto che è nato in Italia nel 2013, è una pratica di danza rivolta a persone che hanno il Parkinson e non solo. Rispetto proprio alla pratica di piccoli segmenti di ATM ci è capitato andare a terra e il tema di scendere a terra è un tema grosso perché ha a che fare con l'equilibrio, con la paura di cadere. Questo aspetto qui ad esempio l'abbiamo affrontato prendendo spunto delle ATM, partendo dalla sedia e approcciando dei avvicinamenti a terra. quindi sentendo la possibilità di spostare il peso, scivolare una gamba, abbassare il busto, quindi tutte queste approssimazioni che li hanno aiutati a avvicinarsi al pavimento. Ci siamo proprio detti, per questa azione usiamo il Feldenkrais. Normalmente rimane più un sottotesto.
Mobile, più fluido, forse un po' più leggero.
We now arrive at an application of the Feldenkrais method that speaks to all of us. Here you will witness the discovery of learning that we all went through as children, now with some who need a bit more help. This segment explores how the Feldenkrais method offers a gentle, adaptive approach for children with special needs. A reminder that learning isn't linear and that every nervous system, regardless of its diagnosis, has the potential to grow.
Nous, les outils qu'on utilise en Feldenkrais, c'est le mouvement et la perception. Il n'y a pas de développement moteur sans relation entre le mouvement et la perception. Si on remet du mouvement, on remet de la perception. Si on remet de la perception, on remet du mouvement. Et c'est cette adéquation entre les informations perceptives et les informations au niveau articulaire ou musculaire en termes de mouvement qui vont permettre de créer ces schémas d'action dans le développement du bébé. Donc, si on veut retrouver du choix en termes de mouvement ou pouvoir développer certaines fonctions qui n'existent pas ou pouvoir améliorer certaines fonctions motrices qui existent, il faut aussi améliorer la perception. Quoi, les bras, tu me montres? Les épaules? Ah, c'est pour la boxe? C'est pourquoi? C'est pour pouvoir allonger plus fort, plus loin le bras? C'est quoi? Ah, plus d'élan, plus de force, c'est ça?
Oui.
Ouais, vas-y, tu me montres? Tu me montres comment tu fais? Ouais. Mais c'est bien déjà, on voit qu'il engage, le bassin, les jambes en plus. Comment on appelle? Crochet? C'est un crochet? Dernièrement, il me parlait souvent de ses jambes. Et puis là, il est venu avec une autre demande. Donc c'est pour ça que je l'ai mis sur le côté, pour aussi travailler cette relation au niveau du bassin, de l'épaule, des côtes et le lien avec son bras. On pousse sur la jambe, on pousse. Et on va allonger le bras. Ouais, pas mal.
So when a child is developing, typically when they're in a typical developmental learning process, then a lot of these learning processes are just unfolding spontaneously. But when I'm working with a child with special needs, there's some kind of disruption to this spontaneous learning process unfolding. And this is really what I'm seeking to try and help them do, to help their nervous systems, their brains, learn to do what they couldn't do on their own because of the disruption of whatever their special needs challenges may be. We're laying new neural pathways in the brain, and we're helping the brain and the nervous system learn to do what it can't do on its own.
Every child has a strength. Every child has something that he can do. Every child has something that he really likes to do. He loves music, he loves lights, he loves motion, he loves something. So I will try to address to those things that he likes to do. And from there, I will go to the next step.
If our intention is to help a child learn to sit, for example, we won't start in sitting. We're not going to put them in a position which they can't do on their own. We're going to give them lots of small and gradual experiences of I can learn something new.
Quand il y a une fonction plus élevée, comme la marche par exemple, où on est juste en appui sur deux pieds, c'est déjà très complexe pour le cerveau en termes d'équilibre, en termes de relation entre les parties, de gérer ça avec deux pieds sur le sol. Donc si on revient en arrière, dans le développement de l'enfant, on fait d'abord du quatre pattes où on est d'abord assis avant de se mettre debout. Et ces fonctions sont vraiment en lien. C'est-à-dire que justement, trouver des appuis à genoux, c'est un segment qui est plus court au départ entre le genou et la hanche. Donc quand il y a une fonction qui paraît pas atteignable pour l'instant, on peut revenir en arrière dans le développement sur des choses qui sont en lien avec la marche par exemple.
Understanding the development is like an ocean of knowledge. It's endless. It's never only about the motor development. It's always connected to the emotional development, to the relationship with the surrounding, to communication, to language. Everything is connected to each other, and the development of one is actually reacting the development of others. From understanding the normal development, the development of every baby, we can take this understanding and working also with children with special needs.
And whether this is due to the effects of brain injury or a genetic disorder, autism spectrum, or a very wide range of diagnosed or undiagnosed challenges, what I've observed is every child's brain has the potential to change, and indeed everybody's brain has the potential to change. And this is what we're doing in this work. We're really harnessing the brain's power to change itself, its inherent neuroplasticity.
5 years ago, my son had surgery on Chiari syndrome type 2. His main diagnosis is spina bifida and hydrocephalia. And after this big surgery, he loses a lot of his skill. I think actually all what we did for that 5 years. He could not crawl, he could not turning, he could not lie down on his belly. And also he loses his opportunity to swallow, not even food, but saliva and all this stuff goes to his lungs. His left arm was paralyzed. He loses opportunity to speak. He forget how to speak and he loses his voice. It was a reason why we continue to do Feldenkrais, because he was afraid of every people. And when he was afraid, he stopped to breathe. And we work with Zsòfi. I think it was 10 sessions in a row. Then we go to Cantal and Alan gave him, I think, 20 lessons in a row. And after that, we stopped using sucker and he could swallow his saliva by himself. It was a huge win for us in that moment. His left hand right now is like right hand. It was paralyzed, but now it's okay. He can speak, he can swallow, he can eat by himself, and crawling and all, it's come back.
Okay, bye. Our next destination brings us to a very different environment. In the world of sports, the method is increasingly recognized not just as a way to recover from injuries, but as a way to enhance performance at the highest level. Because performance isn't just about pushing harder, it's about using ourselves more intelligently, more efficiently, and with greater adaptability. In this segment, you'll meet Olympic-level coaches and athletes who integrate neurosomatic strategies into their training. Here, even the smallest adjustment or a split-second decision can make all the difference.
The only way anyone ever gets hurt is if something's moving and something's not. But if we get out the way of ourselves, then movement and force can flow, which leads to increased speed, increased power, and less injuries. So gentle touch is used to feel all the way through the parts of a person where force might flow to do the action of the sport they're playing. I don't think Roger Federer ever hit a tennis ball with his arm, did he? He hit it with his whole self, so it never looked like he was training.
Sappiamo che la vita di Feldenkrais è una vita incredibile, è un romanzo di suo. La sua parte di arte marziale come praticante di judo è stata fondamentale, proprio perché c'è questo stesso elemento in cui un'azione è giusta quando non è fatta con uno sforzo non necessario, che è proprio il DNA anche delle arti marziali. E qualcosa proprio qua.
Qu'est-ce que tu ressens? Vas-y, refais de l'autre côté.
Ah bah là, j'ai clairement l'impression que ça le prend avec quand je tourne ma jambe, voilà. Alors que là, il est stable.
C'est libre, voilà. C'est exactement ce qu'il faut que tu trouves. Parce que du coup, après, ta tête, elle sera libre d'aller jouer et chercher de la respiration où tu veux, sans que ça déséquilibre ce qui se passe là.
On avait fait une séance ensemble sur la mezzanine, je me souviens très bien de la piscine Jean-Régis. On avait travaillé un peu sur ma respiration. Et en fait, en rentrant dans l'eau, j'ai eu une sensation directement d'emmagasiner un peu de l'air, mais décuplé. J'avais l'impression au lieu de prendre 4 litres d'air à chaque respiration, j'en prenais 6. C'était juste une façon de placer ma tête, en fait, qui me permettait d'avoir plus de relâchement dans ma respiration, dans les muscles un peu de la respiration. Et c'est quelque chose que j'ai gardé pendant un moment parce que vraiment ça m'avait beaucoup servi.
Je me souviens très bien d'une séance Feldenkrais avant un entraînement de natation et où pour le coup j'ai eu une sensation vraiment différente sur le début de la prise d'appui en crawl et où j'avais l'impression d'avoir débloqué un petit truc pendant la séance qui se transférait directement dans le bassin et où consciemment en plus j'étais capable de trouver le déclencheur de ce mouvement, si on veut l'origine de ce mouvement qui partait pas du tout de mon bras mais plutôt de mon bassin. Aucune notion d'effort et de no pain no gain un petit peu là. Dans tout ce que j'avais connu, c'était il faut aller assez loin dans l'effort et assez loin dans la sollicitation du système pour avoir une surcompensation et trouver un effet. Ici, c'est totalement l'inverse en fait de ce que j'ai ressenti. C'était vraiment on peut avoir une certaine douceur et avoir des adaptations qui sont super positives. C'est même l'inverse en fait. En faisant un petit peu moins, on est capable d'en faire plus.
Elle a du mal à garder bien la tête dans l'axe horizontal de la colonne pour bien que la traction des bras, elle oriente le corps vers l'avant. Et sauf que quand je lui demande si elle arrive à rentrer un peu plus la tête, et ben en fait elle me dit qu'elle est déjà à fond. Alors que visuellement, non, elle est pas, on n'y est pas du tout, quoi. Via cette méthode-là, on arrive à corriger des choses qu'on a mis un an et demi à corriger et qu'on n'a pas réussi, quoi. Et puis en peu de temps, en une séance, en une demi-heure, on arrive à faire des choses que j'ai jamais réussi à faire à l'entraînement, juste avec des consignes ou des exemples, quoi.
Le praticien Feldenkrais, je pense que sa place, en fait, c'est... Moi, je me vois comme un interprète. Ce qui arrive assez souvent, c'est que le coach dit à l'athlète « j'aimerais que tu fasses ça ». Et puis l'athlète ne le sent pas.
C'est qu'en fait, il va lui-même mobiliser le corps. Et donc en plus, il ne parle pas au nageur, il va parler à son cerveau directement. C'est-à-dire qu'il va expliquer à son cerveau comment telle articulation peut fonctionner différemment, etc. etc. Donc en fait, c'est qu'il n'y a même pas ce passage où le nageur analyse une parole que je lui donne, analyse et doit la retranscrire au niveau corporel.
Là, j'ai une problématique avec lui, c'est que quand il respire, il ne maintient pas son bassin.
Où on ne peut pas prendre la place de l'entraîneur. Nous, notre spécificité, c'est la connaissance du mouvement et l'organisation du mouvement, et pas le geste technique spécifique voulu par l'entraîneur. Tu fais plus d'efforts, regarde, sens comment c'est tendu là.
Ouais, là je sens.
Et là, c'est tout bon.
Ouais, c'est vrai.
Donc tu choisis d'aller du côté difficile pour aller respirer plutôt que du côté facile. C'est paradoxal ça quand même.
Ouais, c'est vrai.
C'est très sportif. Du coup, je ne veux pas te dire arrête de respirer à droite. C'est comment respirer à droite en fournissant moins d'efforts.
Moi, je pense qu'un élément qui est vraiment très fort, c'est qu'on n'insiste pas sur une façon de faire. Il y a beaucoup d'endroits où en fait on essaye d'identifier une façon de faire, alors que Feldenkrais en fait prend une stratégie qui est de l'ordre de la variation. En fait, on ouvre l'éventail et on fait confiance au système nerveux pour identifier la meilleure façon, enfin une très bonne façon de faire. Et je me reprends en disant c'est pas la meilleure façon de faire, c'est une très bonne façon de faire qui est la mieux adaptée ou très bien adaptée dans telle situation, pour tel geste, dans telle position, etc.
Diversifying or giving more options in movement is absolutely key to the method, and I've used this tons in professional football in the UK. Players roll their ankles, it happens, they wear studs, their feet get caught, they get tackled, and more historically the physiotherapist restores movement, makes it strong, they do some work with balance, they go back and play, and inevitably recurrence is high, happens again. So, because there's always a bigger force, it happens again, it happens again. So in Feldenkrais, what we do is like, okay, we know the person might roll their ankle, but what are the options? When it's going to roll, how could they move differently so it doesn't roll? So I work with, rather than making an ankle strong, I work with the person placing their ankle in many different positions and then asking their hip to move or the knee to move this way, that way, this way, that way, ridiculous ways, such that in the ideal next time when that event happens, rather than tearing, they had experienced a certain way of getting out of trouble and it doesn't tear this time. And this is, I've done this with lots of players and had agents and clubs ask me to come and do this with certain players.
Ce truc-là, déjà dans les années 30, il y avait Bernstein qui avait lancé un petit peu une façon d'étudier le mouvement. Il a eu des techniques photographiques en fait pour montrer que les meilleurs forgerons avaient des mouvements variés sur... Enfin, les trajectoires étaient d'une certaine façon jamais deux fois la même, ce qui est normal en vrai, mais par contre, au moment de l'impact, ils réussissaient c'est comme si c'était un entonnoir, ils arrivaient de plein de façons différentes à au même résultat.
Le nageur, c'est jamais le même en fonction du jour de l'entraînement. Dans la répétition, on va essayer de répéter la meilleure efficience possible, mais pas forcément un geste possible. Donc le geste pourrait peut-être être différent avec une efficience tout aussi bonne, quoi. Si on fait un jeu de cartes, plus on a de cartes en main, plus c'est facile pour jouer une partie. Et le nageur, c'est pareil. Plus il a de possibilités dans sa main, plus il a de mouvements possibles, de possibilités motrices que son corps sait faire. Et pour moi, plus il pourra répondre à différentes situations en course, à l'entraînement, en compétition.
Our journey now brings us to something that most of us desire. Would you like to be more creative? Who wouldn't? The Feldenkrais Method is a great resource that can bring more creativity into our life in a novel and unsuspecting way. Creativity is often imagined as a spark, sudden, magical, inexplicable. But creativity is also a process, a dance between structure and spontaneity, intention and surprise. In this segment, you'll hear from a Feldenkrais trainer, former actor, and author of the book, Creating Creativity. What follows is a brief excerpt of a lecture about the many strategies used to enhance creative potential through movement.
So one of the basic tenets in the Feldenkrais method is that we're not teaching the right or the wrong way to do anything. What we're teaching is more choice. So depending on the context you're in, who you're with, how you feel that day, the time of day, all of those things will determine the kind of choices that we make. So then it becomes a question of how can we start to generate choices? One of the ways that we can look at these ideas is to see, can we come to standing in different ways? So first, just come to standing and sit again. And you can do that a few times. And of course, that's probably most representative of each of our habits, the way we explore things and do things. And sit again. And now, come to standing in a poor way. Don't do it well. Oh, that's pretty good, actually, some of you. Now, sit. And now this time, imagine that you see a child getting too close to a heater and stand. Whoa, yeah. That makes a big difference, does it? Do it again, okay? Can you feel? The whole way you bring yourself to the act of going from sitting to standing changes completely. Now sit again, and now do it slowly, come to standing. Now it may be possible for some of you that you feel different things coming really, really slowly like this compared to when you did it quickly. Now, the Weber-Fechner law describes really the relationship between stimulus and sensitivity. So the slower, the smaller the action we do, the higher degree of attention we can bring to what we're doing. And that's a lot of what we're working with. And in fact, the place that we start to learn about when we move slowly like this in a Feldenkrais lesson is more about the initiation, how we begin something. So we're building something from a very different foundation.
Here's a domain where creativity is at the core and where the method can be a real game changer. This is another field that is close to my heart. I've spent decades teaching physical theater and exploring how neurosomatic strategies can enrich our stage presence. In this segment, you'll meet performing artists, some of them longtime colleagues, who use these strategies to refine their physicality, enhance their stage presence, repattern habits, and expand their expressive range. You'll see how the Feldenkrais method becomes a powerful resource for injury prevention, improvisation, comedy, and creative exploration, supporting not just the art, but the artist behind it.
On le sait maintenant, il y a la recherche scientifique, il y a les expériences. Le public voit d'abord les gestes et le corps. Et après, c'est le texte qui arrive. Le public voit tout, pas seulement. Mais je travaille la même chose quand je prépare des professionnels de théâtre pour des rôles, que c'est la première fois qu'ils vont avoir un rôle, par exemple, comique, ou c'est la première fois qu'ils vont dans une série où ils ne sont pas à l'aise, ou quand ils ne peuvent pas atteindre des rôles, et c'est certains rôles qu'ils veulent vraiment jouer, mais personne ne les demande. Parce qu'ils dégagent toujours, à la place du grand héros, le petit frère. Quelque chose comme ça. Et donc, on travaille ensemble pour qu'ils se rendent compte quelles sont leurs habitudes, comment ils se comportent, comment ils peuvent retrouver un certain centrage. Donc, en fait, d'autant pour les jeunes comédiens que pour les professionnels, c'est vraiment, si je sais ce que je fais, là, ou mieux encore, si je sais comment je fais les choses, là, je peux faire ce que je veux. Mais si on n'a aucune idée de ce qu'on exprime déjà, c'est faux dès le début. C'est comme un peintre qui commence déjà avec une feuille avec plein de choses dessus.
Il y a des gens qui ont tendance de pousser quand ils marchent. Ils poussent. Alors, on va au théâtre ce soir. Il y a d'autres, au contraire, qui ont l'air d'être poussés. Des gens comme une main invisible oblige d'avancer dans la vie. On va au théâtre ce soir. Il y en a d'autres qui semblent être tirés, attirés.
Je me dis, avec l'art du rire ou n'importe quel spectacle que je fais, que je fasse au moins, au départ, le public, le cadeau de ma présence, sans me trouver intéressant, moi. C'est-à-dire, je ne suis pas en force, je ne suis pas en défense, je ne suis pas zen, neutre non plus, c'est chiant. Mais d'être juste Zsòfi qui est là. Mais je peux beaucoup plus l'être après tout ce voyage de toutes les sons, toutes les différenciations. On se réveille à soi-même de plus en plus jusqu'à ce qu'on arrive au bout des doigts, au bout de ses cheveux. Je suis là.
Pour faire rire avec ce corps, observons-le de plus près. Pourquoi nous ne tombons pas? Parce que nous avons dans notre squelette des points d'articulation qui nous permettent de compenser. Vous voyez, quand une chose va en avant, l'autre va en arrière, et ainsi de suite.
Chez Feldenkrais et chez le coq aussi, il y a des permanences qui sont liées à la gravité et au squelette. Et je suis artiste, donc je m'amuse avec ça. Et on ne peut que jouer faux quand on a un grand sens de ce qui est juste.
Vous avez réservé? Non, comment? Oh, excusez-moi. Pardon, c'est... Asseyez-vous.
Oftentimes people struggle and they love moving, but they suffer from a sense of tension and restriction and limitation. And oftentimes the first thought is, okay, you feel tight in your muscles, just stretch. You feel weak, just strengthen your muscles. You feel a limitation, just push through it. Sometimes people feel stuck in cycles of loop and tension and limitation until the point that this becomes their self-definition. This is just my body. I am just not built to do X, Y, Z. We define ourselves into this box where in reality we're simply busy using or executing or doing a movement pattern that isn't serving us. Like Einstein once said, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. I really think that the mainstream education of dance, and not only dance, movement in general, aims and focuses on cosmetic solutions, and people suffer from symptoms. They might suffer from tension, limitation, pain, restrictions in movement, and we stay busy with the symptoms, so we look for solutions that are addressing the symptoms and not the root cause. And that's what Feldenkrais does, and it does that in a way that no other method that I've seen out there do. Because hands down, changing your movement patterns is the most effective, sustainable, and healthy way to overcome a physical limitation.
I was very ambitious and I really wanted to be good. And to be good, I had to know what was the good way to do everything. So there had to be the perfect way to do a tendu, and there's the perfect way to do a port de bras, and there's a perfect way to do a plie. And I felt like there is only one way, but the whole crisis was that every day I would wake up and I feel so different, and I would feel I cannot repeat what I did yesterday, and I can't do it the same way or something that felt good yesterday isn't working today, and I couldn't understand how to create the consistency. It was very surprising to discover how much I lacked actually the ability to sense myself and move from sensing, even though as a dancer you would think we're so much existing in our bodies. And so, I mean, even the word somatic, I think I only learned when I started doing Feldenkrais. And it's so complementary to dance. It has to be like that. I really don't know how I did it before. As a dancer, I spend hours every day in my body, either rehearsing or learning movement or improvising or researching. And then the Feldenkrais method, because we are learning to ask questions, right? It's always just about asking questions, like, what's happening here now? What's happening here now? And it's wonderful. You realize how endless, how like really infinity the playfulness of asking what's happening in your body is. It helps you to find the most efficient use of yourself, right? We know that that's kind of one of the goals, is that we find a way to make everyday movement easier, more pleasurable. This skeletal use of ourself takes so much effort and strain off of our muscles, and suddenly we have less noise in our brain and our whole nervous system is actually quieter.
Qui peut toucher le sol? Sentez comment vous le faites, tout le monde. Maintenant, jusqu'où vous pouvez aller, tranquillement, sans se faire mal. Juste tranquillement. OK. Et toi aussi?
Avec les élèves ou même avec des professionnels, il y a toujours un moment où ils se disent « c'est pas possible, ça j'arrive pas à faire, ça c'est trop difficile, ça c'est pas pour moi, ça c'est n'importe ». Et je leur demande qui peut pas toucher le sol. Et après, je dis, donne-moi 7 minutes. Et je prends quelqu'un qui me dit aussi, oui, j'y travaille, mais j'y arrive pas. Je leur fais faire des petits mouvements. Et après 7 minutes, ils touchent le sol. Touche.
Oh.
Ouais, c'est vrai.
Non, elle était là.
Incroyable. Mais ce n'est pas seulement ça. C'est aussi que j'ai demandé aux autres de faire un cercle autour et de juste regarder, d'observer ce qui se passe. Et eux aussi, ils ont avancé. Et soudain, cette idée de l'impossible devient possible se clarifie devant leurs yeux. Et c'est un boost énorme dans la confiance de se dire « mais oui, j'ai des ressources en moi qui sont plus grandes, je peux aller plus loin ». Et ce qui est important ici aussi, c'est qu'eux, ils pensent que c'est une limitation purement structurelle, physique. Ils ne peuvent pas le faire. Et en fait, je peux leur montrer, ou je peux leur donner l'expérience que cette soi-disant limite physique, c'est dans le cerveau. Et qu'ils peuvent le dépasser en se coordonnant différemment.
La méthode Feldenkrais a sauvé ma vie. Je n'ose même pas penser à où elle serait allée sans ça. Et c'est presque aberrant qu'encore il y a tellement de gens sur cette planète qui n'ont pas accès à cette potion magique.
Another substantial application of the Feldenkrais method that too many of us can relate to is addressing chronic pain or persistent discomfort. Personally, it's what brought me to the method. On my journey to recover from chronic pain, Feldenkrais became an indispensable tool. In this short excerpt from a longer conference talk, I explore how Feldenkrais strategies intersect with modern pain science and emerging evidence-based therapies. They offer new ways to understand chronic pain and, more importantly, to unlearn it.
What is pain? Pain is a danger signal. It's a protection signal. It's like a fire alarm. If the fire alarm would go off here, we'd all run out, no? Wouldn't stay in. It's designed to be unignorable. If it's just a little beep beep, we wouldn't be very interested. So pain can be caused by a structural problem. It can be an injury, fracture, a tumor, an infection, all these things. But pain can also be caused by a non-structural problem. Maybe we had a tissue problem, maybe it's healed, but the pain persists, not weeks, months, but years. Or maybe there's a problem, a pain that comes without any structural reason. Maybe there's a habit that's created. A neural pathway pain circuit is created, and we'll see how this works. And it is activated by fear, by stress, by triggers.
Our next stop brings us to a field where learning can be heard, where change manifests through sound. The voice is perhaps our most intimate form of expression. It's shaped not only by our vocal cords, but also by breath, posture, emotion, and self-image. To truly work with the voice, we must engage the whole self. In this segment, you'll meet an opera singer, a vocal coach, a speech therapist, and a vocal learning facilitator, each applying the Feldenkrais method in their own unique way. You'll discover how neurosomatic strategies support recovery after illness or trauma, but also how they unlock new vocal abilities.
C'est des médecins ORL phoniatres qui m'adressent des patients, et des patients qui, à un moment de leur vie, vont avoir tout d'un coup une difficulté vocale, ou alors des difficultés vocales répétées. Ça peut aller d'une simple distorsion à une simple fatigue vocale commençante, à des aphonies complètes. Voilà, il y a toute une gamme de pathologies qu'on peut rencontrer, avec une altération des cordes vocales ou pas. Les 10 premières séances, c'est du Feldenkrais pur. Il n'y a que sur les dernières séances que je passe à autre chose. Vraiment les fins de rééducation. Mais avec ma formation d'orthophoniste et avec mon expérience qui m'est propre. On va rester un petit peu plus longtemps sur le M. On sait très bien que dans les pathologies vocales, il y a un aspect stress ou un aspect tension interne qui est très très important. Et que la première recommandation dans les recommandations pour la rééducation ou le travail vocal, c'est souvent la relaxation. Or, ce qu'on fait avec le Feldenkrais, on fait du tout en un finalement, parce qu'on a des effets de relaxation, mais en cours de route, on travaille plein de fonctions, plein de parties du corps qui sont utiles pour le geste vocal. Donc on a une sorte de tout en un comme ça, c'est-à-dire on fait descendre les niveaux, j'appelle ça descendre les niveaux, et puis en même temps on a exploré, travaillé, remis de l'eau au moulin, mis en place des nouveaux patterns neuromoteurs, mis en place surtout des récepteurs kinesthésiques, sensoriels, voilà.
Le travail qu'on a fait, tous les détournements qu'on fait, diminue la pression.
Diminue les niveaux de tension.
Ah, d'accord.
Ou alors, en tout cas, essaye d'harmoniser et d'ajuster qu'est-ce qui doit se mettre en marche et qu'est-ce qui doit se relâcher, dans n'importe quel mouvement. On est vraiment, avec le Feldenkrais, c'est vraiment ce qu'on fait. On est vraiment en train tout le temps de chercher le juste effort au bon endroit, etc. Tout le temps, tout le temps.
What did that feel like?
Easy. Instead of working through singing directly, we're going to work indirectly and see what happens with singing. It's interesting because in the wider culture, we're used to thinking about muscles. We're used to thinking about sounds as singers. So what if the sound is more a byproduct of an organization rather than the thing we're trying to change directly? One way I describe what I do is I'm a vocal learning facilitator. Through application of the Feldenkrais method and Feldenkrais ideas, but directly applied to voice science, vocal pedagogy, vocal traditions, styles, etc. And started to think, okay, what would Feldenkrais do with the kind of vocal knowledge that we have today? You know, I read the studies, I know the jargon, the ideas, I know the sounds, I know all of that, but I do think differently. What I learned from the Feldenkrais perspective is that you take that idea, you take that understanding, and you build it into an experience where it's not so explicit, but it is what's happening. It can go up and down like this, and it's attached to the muscles of the tongue here, inside the jaw, back of the tongue, There are muscles that even go from the hyoid to the styloid. What does it mean to distribute the work within the vocal system and around the vocal system such that the least pressure and work possible falls on the vocal folds themselves, but we can work everything else wildly? That's an amazing thing. Most people, when they try to work the system, automatically engage at the level of the vocal folds too much. So I came up with strategies, reversing A and B, some phonemic strategies, global distribution of effort, and applying them to vocal sounds, vocal movements, such that the outcome was easiest phonation possible while being able to do lots of varied and, in some ways, extreme vocal movements. Keep your tongue a little more forward. Sometimes I work with singers in a very singerly way, and sometimes I work in a very awareness way that allows for the singing to happen. I would say I enjoy it all when it's the appropriate move. But I do find that since most singers are mostly singingly obsessed and they're leaving out the rest of the picture, they need that.
With my soul. Let's start with that little soaring violin bow thing, going from your elbow and coming back to your wrist. The lesson I did on my training, the violin, so we've been playing with this and all of these things. So I've been slowly developing that and adding bits in, and we've done it sitting on the floor, and now so that I can then feed it in as part of a warm-up and try and keep things fresh. And for me, it's just really important that they learn to integrate movement and connecting to their body and using their whole selves, because when they're singing in chapel or the church with music and they're static, and it's to get them to sense that actually there isn't a static, that there's movement in everything. It sets their bodies up without them knowing about it. So when it comes to singing with the conductor, that they actually, without realising it, they have the skills at their fingertips. The level of the singing that the choruses that I teach are at, it's like high performance singing. They need to be in tip-top condition. I do know that on a Friday when we work with the oratory, that they sing very differently after we've done some physical work, and they know that and they can appreciate that. And their director of music also, he's like, this has really changed the sound.
Dans mon travail personnel et dans mon enseignement, je m'attarde beaucoup sur ce que ça signifie faire moins d'efforts, avoir moins de tension, etc. Parce que dans le chant, on est obligé d'avoir un niveau de tonus musculaire qui est quand même élevé. Mais on nous dit en parallèle qu'il faut être le plus détendu possible, qu'il faut être le plus relax possible. Donc maintenant, j'en arrive à me dire, en effet, il y a une question d'efficacité et de moindre effort, parce qu'on va comprendre ce qui doit être sollicité de la bonne façon. C'est ce sur quoi je travaille actuellement le plus, c'est de pouvoir créer un intérieur de sécurité, quoi qu'il arrive autour. Donc pour moi, ça signifie utiliser de manière optimale le bon tonus musculaire. Pas celui qui va tout refermer, accélérer le rythme cardiaque, serrer la gorge, non, celui qui va garder la maison ouverte, quoi. Qu'est-ce qui, chez moi, fait que, par exemple, ma problématique, c'était que je m'étouffais, que ma gorge se serrait tout d'un coup, et donc ma cage thoracique se contractait tout d'un coup, et j'avais des mouvements parasitaires musculaires de contraction un peu soudains. Et pourquoi ? Pourquoi ça arrive ? Pourquoi il faut trouver, quoi. Et c'est pas seulement en se disant « vas-y, détends-toi, ça va bien se passer ». C'est pas aussi simple. Je me base beaucoup aussi sur la force squelettique, enfin l'appui squelettique, et je trouve que c'est ça, c'est que si on sait où s'appuyer, où réveiller l'action, alors on peut en effet faciliter le mouvement et détendre ce qu'il faut détendre.
By now, you've probably sensed that the Feldenkrais method is about much more than movement. Movement is often the entry point, a powerful tool for cultivating awareness, and that awareness can ripple into deeper shifts in how we see ourselves. Remember my theater student we saw earlier? How movement helped her challenge long-held beliefs about her abilities? Movement is a gateway. Feldenkrais lessons are called awareness through movement for a reason. When I studied psychotherapy, the common path was to change how we feel by changing how we think. But through the Feldenkrais method, I discovered that how we move can profoundly transform how we experience ourselves and relate to the world. In this segment, we will hear from psychotherapists who integrate the Feldenkrais method into their practice. We also will travel to a prison in Italy where the method is offered as a lifeline, a direct embodied experience of neuroplasticity.
Donc je travaille toujours en institution, en crèche, et je travaille aussi en cabinet en tant que psychothérapeute. Et là, j'accueille du tout venant, mais surtout quand même des adultes plutôt. Et tout au long de ces années, je me suis bien aperçue que je pratiquais mon activité de psychologue et de psychothérapeute, non pas tant comme je l'ai appris à la fac, mais de façon très inspirée par la méthode Feldenkrais. Je pense que ce qui est important pour moi, c'est que justement, la frontière entre thérapie et pédagogie, pour moi, n'est pas très claire. Ce qui m'intéresse dans la méthode Feldenkrais, c'est qu'il s'agit d'une pédagogie, justement, et qui n'est pas dans la perspective d'enseigner. Et moi, je ne suis pas dans la perspective d'enseigner à mes patients comment se débarrasser des symptômes qui les dérangent, mais plutôt de leur offrir un cadre qui les invite à explorer leur propre fonctionnement.
I use the Feldenkrais method in the psychotherapy as with short inventions. And one thing is, if somebody is very, very fearful and very unbalanced, I make this sitting on one sit bone. And after 2-3 variations, they are centered in the middle, and they sense their stability and their balance they have to making something like that. So that is very concrete. I use also body scans. If somebody is totally confused, totally confused with the Feldenkrais method, we can calm down somebody or we can activate somebody. It depends what this person needs. Because psychotherapy is a talking method, means often it goes intellectually, but there is no experience for the physical side. And so I combine that.
Le questionnement des représentations que nous avons de l'humain, et y compris dans son psychisme, évolue tout le temps. 4 fonctions qui reviennent quand même un petit peu partout, toujours, et il se trouve que ce sont les mêmes par lesquelles Moshe Feldenkrais définissait l'activité humaine. Ce sont les fonctions motrices, qu'on peut appeler l'action, les fonctions sensorielles, les fonctions cognitives, le thinking, la pensée, et le feeling, que je traduis là par régulation émotionnelle.
All of these things are always going on at the same time, but one is often more in the foreground than the others, but that a change in any one of these things has the potential to change the other things as well. The other brilliant thing about movement as the doorway to the self is that it's immediate and concrete. When we move differently, we know it. We feel sensation, we have emotions around it, we may think of ourselves differently, but this is the doorway that precedes most of the changes that can occur in the rest of ourselves, and it can happen really quickly.
Mentre io studiavo mi convincevo sempre più che il Feldenkrais era perfetto per il carcere, perché tratta di comportamento. Queste persone sono lì perché hanno avuto un comportamento scorretto nei confronti della società, insomma. Il fatto di potersi sentire da subito diversi crea speranza. Avere la possibilità di fare questa esperienza è una conferma che sì, puoi cambiare, sì, puoi imparare ad agire in modo diverso, a pensare in modo diverso, a sentirti in modo diverso, a essere una persona diversa.
We now venture into a place that is likely familiar to most of us: stress. A space where we might prefer to spend less time. The question is, how do we do that? The Feldenkrais method is one of the more unknown answers to this dilemma. Stress isn't just mental, it's embodied. And our capacity to respond to it is connected to how we organize ourselves, our breath, our posture, and the unconscious habits that shape how we move through the world. This segment explores how the method supports the regulation of our nervous system in very demanding environments. You'll hear from two experts in the field, a corporate mediator and a psychologist working in hospitals in Torino, two professionals working in spaces where stress runs high.
Uso il Feldenkrais in diversi contesti e in particolar modo lo utilizzo all'interno di un corso di formazione per la gestione dello stress per gli operatori sanitari della città della salute di Torino. Il discorso è molto Feldenkrais, no? Cosa faccio? Come sto? Quello che faccio mi è utile? Se per esempio sto stringendo la mandibola, me ne accorgo, ma è funzionale perché mi aiuta a essere più concentrato, più teso, più focalizzato, bene, continuo a farlo. Se stai stringendo la mandibola e sei al cinema, chiediti, mi è utile, non è utile, potrei fare qualcosa di diverso. Nel corpo abbiamo tante risorse per la gestione dello stress, per l'autoregolazione. E quindi lì tutto l'approccio per cui dal grounding all'asse centrale, alla distribuzione del carico, possono essere elementi utili per trovare internamente quello stato di sicurezza che nello stato di stress, nelle condizioni di stress invece è fortemente minacciato.
I'm a coach and mediator, but I'm still a Feldenkrais practitioner. So about half my work is still Feldenkrais. And I applied also in different fields in the corporate world. This was created out of my work with ergonomic consulting, because I asked myself, how is it that I always have to teach people how to sit at their desk? It's something they have been doing their whole life. And when you look at this picture, when you think you're watching a soccer game and your team is winning, you don't ask yourself, how am I sitting? It just happens. And when people are stressed, when they get more emails than they can answer, or when they are entangled in a conflict, or when they made a mistake and shame kicks in, they really get into a lot of stress, which prevents them to organize themselves at the desk. So that's kind of how I came to ESM.
Il primo assunto è quello dell'integrazione mente-corpo, che grazie al cielo, mi dispiace Cartesio, ma l'abbiamo superata, il dualismo, e quindi la teoria incarnata secondo cui gli stati interni condizionano come ci sentiamo nel corpo, quindi se siamo stressati il nostro corpo risponde, ma sia al contrario, bottom up, cioè gli stati somatici influenzano il nostro modo di sentire, di pensare. E quindi questo è interessante, no? Perché se noi abbiamo delle abitudini di cui non siamo consapevoli, il rischio è che continuiamo a mandare al nostro sistema messaggi di un certo tipo. Ci sono stati moltissimi studi in questo senso.
Now, let's go to the stable, or maybe the farm, or just to visit your pet. Did you know this about the Feldenkrais method? It's true. Feldenkrais can even be applied to animals, because learning, adaptation, and habits don't belong to humans alone. In this segment, we travel to Germany to meet practitioners working with dogs and horses, using both the Feldenkrais and Tellington T-touch methods. You'll see how gentle touch helps animals move better, recover from trauma, and live with greater ease.
People ask me to help the horses when they when they trip, that happens a lot of time, or they do not lift their legs really good, or they are afraid of stuff that's on the floor. So this is also the hoof-eye coordination. Many times it's a problem in the back because saddles do not fit all the time, or they do not carry the weight good to carry a rider. Do not release the neck. Many times they do not handle their feet because they less control and less sense of the feet, or too tense in the back. And with the methods, with Darlington and Feldenkrais, I can go everywhere and support the horse and the owner. There is some tension in that part. And then I can start to move here, and I can follow the shoulder line with my fingers. And in the beginning, I'm just looking if she releases by herself. So we cannot ask with words, but we can ask with our fingers. Yeah, and I always look if she feels well. She was swallowing now. And then I play a little bit. There you go. That's it.
I rescued him from a really bad situations, from animal hoarder, and I saw one of the puppies who couldn't walk. He could crawl with the front legs, but the left legs were like paralyzed. But they had feeling. So if I did the testing on, you do it between the skin of the toes, he could pull them back, but he couldn't put them underneath the body and walk. And then I went to a friend who is leading one of the physiotherapy schools, and she was looking at him and she said, his bones are really not in a good position, his joints are not in a good position, maybe he will stay like this. He was laying on my lap and I did all kinds of movements, and Linda always showed us also Feldenkrais movements. And I did the false floor, and I took his paws, and his paws was touching the other paw. On the next day, I was sitting on the bench and suddenly I saw something moving, and I looked at him and he was standing on his 4 feet and did his first step.
When I work with the horse and they change their posture, they do not go back in the field to the others and say, oh my God, how will they look when I walk like this? You know, they just used the new patterns. There is nothing. My uncle said I need to pull my shoulders back, you know. And this is the reason what I think why horses are so much faster as humans in this learning process. They just listen and take what's nice, like children. They just take and say, oh, that's cool, I take that. And horses are like that.
Our final stop is in the world of music. Here you will see how listening and playing music can be enhanced through new perspectives on what we listen to and how we listen. You'll meet musicians and educators who use neurosomatic strategies to reduce strain, prevent injury, improve musical expression and engage the whole self, not only in the act of making music, but also in the art of receiving it.
Il y a 8 ans, je suis tombée dans un burn-out. Quand j'étais quelques mois dans le burn-out, j'ai développé vraiment de la douleur quand même assez extrême. Et je pense que je vais me souvenir toute ma vie de la sensation de ce premier cours. Parce que pour moi, c'est toujours, je pense que ça vient avec l'instrument, c'est des problèmes d'épaule en fait. Parce que comme la ceinture scapulaire, elle est quand même assez bloquée quand on joue, surtout avec une ceinture. Et après ce premier cours, j'avais vraiment la sensation que mes bras avaient 30 cm de plus. Et quand je montais l'escalier, que c'était vraiment même les hanches qui participaient vraiment au mouvement, bah, c'était presque une illumination, je pense, à ce moment-là. Concrètement, l'absence de la force, par exemple, quand on fait des études musicales, bien sûr, on va toujours travailler ça, mais ce n'est pas parce qu'on travaille ça qu'on va vraiment le faire. C'est très flagrant quand on commence à jouer un instrument quand on est petit. Et les premiers cours où on doit vraiment faire descendre une corde, c'est très difficile parce qu'on n'a pas ce muscle dans les doigts en fait. Et quelque part, ce souvenir de c'est difficile, je trouve ça assez incroyable comment ça reste avec nous en fait.
So the thing about RSI, repetitive stress injury, I think is RSI, is that everybody thinks the important word here is repetitive, but it's not. You should be able to repeat something all day and not have any problem. You should be able to do that. That's normal. You need to be able to repeat all day. It's repetitive stress injury, but the stress doesn't come from the repetition. The stress comes from repeating it badly. So if in this scenario here, my muscles are working overtime, but if I even just sort of allow my forearm to float forward, and then my hand is sort of perch on top of this bony structure here, I'm completely at peace. And at that point, the bones are doing most of the work, and the muscles just a little bit to help. When somebody's got RSI, they're from repetitive stress, then you change the way they're repeating the thing. You don't stop them from repeating the thing. They need to repeat. It's called répétition. So this is, of course, the hardest. This is the hardest.
Yeah.
This, right?
I know.
Look, so let's do a little exercise. Place your hand on key. Play this chord. Play this chord.
Produire du son, c'est facile. Ça peut être facile. Et ça doit être facile. Dès qu'on force, le son est vilain. Il est dur. Et ça ne résonne pas. Quand on arrive à trouver cette détente dans le mouvement, le volume sonore est plus important, mais aussi le son est plus beau. Et en même temps, ça demande 50 fois moins d'efforts.
Now, stay there. Rock your pelvis forward and back. All these muscles are much lower in their contraction. Now, eventually, the nervous system figures out, oh, I can actually leave my muscles like that and play all the notes. But it's weird. You stay in this hyper-relaxed state, and that's really like the bones are playing the notes, and my muscles are not. But you see something's happening up here, okay? So now, you stay like that, and you move the keys. Yeah, now look like this. Go like this. Move the keys and slide here and down. Okay, and now just play. Your violinists are going to love you because this supports them. They're playing, and it's pianissimo, but they feel enveloped with sonority. They feel the piano is hugging them. Oh, they're going to love it. That's right. If muscular force is used, you tend to get a harsh sound. If skeletal force is used, you tend to get a better sound. Okay, what's skeletal force? Bones don't have any force. And so then I show them very simply, look, press the piano like this, and that's your muscles straining. And now, press the piano with a straight elbow, and oh, your muscles strain less and you have way more power. So that's a simple example of using the skeletal structure of the body.
Ça permet d'avoir un courant finalement naturel et sans obstacle, directement depuis le cerveau, depuis la pensée musicale, vers l'instrument. C'est-à-dire que le corps devient un biais sans obstacle. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a quelque chose de très direct. Alors qu'avant, forcément, j'avais pas conscience de toutes ces choses-là et j'ai l'impression que mon corps ne me laissait pas finalement produire le son tel que je le voulais. C'est ça.
relatively well organized, as you are at the end of a good ATM or a good FI, then you can apply that freedom to a new way of producing sonority at the instrument. So there's a wonderfully practical application of this beatific experience of a Feldenkrais lesson in the end. It's our birthright, it's our natural state, is to be a moving entity. And it's just, we get, I don't know, we listen to the sound so much that we forget what was producing the sound in the first place. Yeah? So the movingness of this one, there's always an echo of movingness within you that relates to this. If you should be able to feel, if you're just a little bit inert there, then basically you're stuck in your intellect. Yeah? Because the source of that beautiful sound just disappeared. Yeah? And now you kept it. You're just moving, you're moving. You are movement. Phil Cohen used to tell me, you are a verb.
When Moshe Feldenkrais developed this method, he drew inspiration from many fields: judo, biomechanics, hypnosis, physics, kinesiology, and learning theories. It's been truly inspiring to meet so many colleagues who continue in this spirit of inquiry, exploring the edges between disciplines, integrating insights from neuroscience, education, and beyond. If you want to experience the Feldenkrais method firsthand, I encourage you to find a local practitioner for live lessons or personalized advice. If you want to dive deeper, each of the individuals you met in this film appears in the longer documentary or conference. They are all available on our Neurosomatic Education platform. We hope this Feldenkrais journey has inspired you to explore different ways to enhance your work and personal life, with new perspectives on movement, learning, and the neurosomatic strategies you've discovered here. Thank you for watching.